Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Our guest on this episode is Nicky Thackray. We'll hear about how we all experience stress but can find ways to deal with this. Nicky will take us through a short breathing exercise, and we'll learn about the difference between meditation and mindfulness.
She is a respected leader and mentor, having spent the last 18 years in leadership positions in a number of Fortune 500 companies. She is a speaker and founder of Zendays, a movement created to help people combat stress and find their inner zen. She's an ambassador and dedicated practitioner of meditation and mindfulness, and on a mission to teach people the skills to improve their lives.
Welcome, Nicky. Thanks for joining us. So, we've heard about Zendays, Nicky. So where has that come from, and where would you like to take it?
Thanks so much for having me on here. I'm so excited to be here with you both. Zendays is a passion project of mine. It really is something that I just feel so passionate about. It's come because this year in particular, at the start, I had a really difficult start to this year, and it was one of those situations where I was kind of overcome. We'd had a death in the family, so there was it was a bit of a mishmash of grief, stress, and exhaustion. And so I literally found myself at the start of this year feeling like I was a bit high and dry and didn't really have anywhere to go because I hadn't actually been building my own defences. Before that time to have a way that would enable me to deal with the stress in a productive sort of way. So it was quite a battle really for me to get back to feeling good, but I did it, and there was lots of different things that I did that helped. But it meant that I really wanted to find a way to be able to share what I had learned about myself with other people, and just so I find myself now on a mission to say to people, what are you doing for yourself that helps you to build your defences, so that when difficult times come in life, which they do for everybody and stress affects all of us, don't let it be that you find yourself similar to where I was, which was a bit high and dry and without the resources and the tools in your pocket to be able to turn to that and help you deal with your stress in the best way.
So that is would you call that, is it like a trigger? Is it some kind of epiphany? Is it, what would you describe that as?
I think for me it was a real turning point, because I got to the point where I realised, and I felt really strongly, that for so long, stress is just not a sexy subject at all, and people don't talk about it. But the price that you pay for that is that when people are suffering with stress, anxiety and overwhelm, they then don't talk about it, so they then don't get some help. And actually what I've found, and so that was the case for me, and certainly with lots of other people that I've spoken to, is that stress and overwhelm is one thing, but actually you then compound it when you're trying to hide it and when you're trying to create that look that sort of says to the outside world, I'm fine, everything's fine, there's no problems over here, everything's cool over here. And so actually that can really, like I say, compound the effects of that stress and make it feel even worse. So what I really wanted to do with Zendays was to create a platform. It's basically a free Facebook community. So anybody can come and join that community. And it's just sharing tips and techniques and ways of how you can deal with your stress. And I would say it's really kind of it's sort of a two-pronged attack. On the one hand, I talk a lot about how you can deal with stress, but on the other side, it's how can you create happiness, and what can you do in your life that really is going to enable you to take full responsibility for where you are in your life. If things aren't going the way that you want them to go, then what are you going to do that's going to fix that? Because I see as well so much of the sort of stress and anxiety that tends to be caused is when people are sitting there waiting for someone else to come and sort their life out for them. And it's just just never going to happen, you know. And I realized that, you know, kind of back at the start of this year as well. And so I just, you know, my message really is for everyone to take real full responsibility and accountability for your life, where you're at, the choices that you've made, the reasons why you are where you are. And if there's something that you don't like about your life, then that's cool. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do that's going to help you to fix it and get yourself back on the right track? So it's all really kind of a message of empowerment, and it's this message about, you know, think about things, think about how you can look after yourself when you know, before things get really tough, so before the going gets tough, so that you're really there and able to back yourself for when the tough winds come.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that, Nicky. So I think you've got a little treat for our listeners. I think you're going to take us through a small meditation. Do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things I talk about all the time on Zendays is meditation. So it would, you know, when I say I kind of pulled myself out of where I was at the start of the year, one of the things that really has kind of changed my life, literally transformed the way that I think and the sort of relationship I've got with myself and with other people as well, is meditation. And in all honesty, I had tried meditation before that a few times, but I felt like it wasn't for me. I felt like I didn't really get it. I didn't understand really what it was all about. I didn't know how you're meant to sit, how you're meant to breathe, what you're meant to do. And so I'd kind of resigned myself to the fact of, you know, do you know what? It's just for hippies. It's just for monks. You know, it's kind of not for me. Like, you've got to be a special certain type of person to be able to do it. And so I'd kind of disengaged from it. But what was so interesting, you know, when I was kind of going through my tough time, and I was doing all sorts of things. I was listening to inspirational podcasts. I was walking. I changed my diet. I stopped drinking so much. You know, there was all sorts of things that I did, but there was a friend who suggested to me, have you tried meditation? And straight away I was like, well, yes, you know, I have before, and it didn't work because it's really complicated, you know. And but actually the suggestion that she'd kind of put in my head stuck with me. And so I that day actually I just started looking on YouTube for, is there some, you know, a guided meditation. So I want to do a meditation, but I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. And so I looked for one, and actually what I found was this hour-long guided meditation. It was the most beautiful thing that I think I've ever done. And it was all about kind of meeting your future self. And I found through doing this guided meditation, I didn't need to think about anything. I didn't need to sit in a particular way. I didn't need to do anything. I just needed to listen to this guy's voice and just follow his instructions. And it was quite a game changer, and I loved it that day. And so I kind of went back every day, and I was starting to do more and more. But then I really felt as though, you know, I actually want to be able to do this for myself. I don't want to have guided meditations all the time. I want to learn the skills so that I can do it whenever I want, you know, wherever I want. And so I went on an immersion course that was with a sort of a meditation school called the Bright Path up in Edinburgh, but they do them all over the country. And it was a 2.5 day immersive course. And so we were doing a mix of some short meditations and then some really long meditations. But it was all about teaching you the skills to be able to do it yourself. And I loved it so much. I literally drove home after that weekend on cloud 9 going, I feel like a different person, because actually I feel like I've been able to find something that really helps to just slow my thoughts down. And if you ever kind of find yourself where you're just busy thinking and doing and running around like a headless chicken, and you feel like you've never really got time to breathe, because certainly that's how I'd felt at the time. If you feel like you've never got time to breathe, it's probably because you're not giving yourself a bit of a mental break. And so actually just learning the simple art of meditation is enough to be able to give you a bit of a mental break in between all the chaos and in between all of the busyness. And I feel so strongly that, you know, if you look around at kind of our lives today, there's so many people pulling for all of your attention. People want your time. They want your attention. You've got your mobile phone going, pinging right, left and centre. You've got kids who want your attention, work's really busy, all these sorts of things. And that actually, if you don't make a conscious effort to buy yourself even just a few minutes per day, just to let all that noise go, And just to be able to take a tiny bit of time for yourself where you can just let your mind still, then actually what happens is you just continue running. It's like the hamster on the wheel. You just keep going until you're actually completely exhausted. So I'd done this immersion course, and I'd done some of these kind of guided meditations, and I just thought this stuff is actually pretty simple. And I was wrong. I was wrong to think that it wasn't for me, and I was wrong, and I've missed a trick really with this. So that's where I decided, actually, I know I'm not the only one that had the wrong end of the stick about what it's all about. And I know that it's got a bit of bad press because people think it is quite complicated, and you've got to have your joss sticks and your tie-dyed shirts and all that kind of thing.
Put those away.
Yeah, put them away, James.
Nobody saw those.
But people think it's just this very specific, complicated thing. And the beauty about it is, and what I talk about all the time on Zendays, is that there are so many different types of meditation. There are some that are like insanely easy, and there are some that are a bit more complicated. Of course there are, but there are definitely some that's easy, and there's so many different types that it's literally just about kind of being a bit like Cinderella and finding the shoe that fits. And so you can do silent meditations where you're sitting in silence, or if you don't like silence, you can have the direct opposite, and you could do mantra meditations, where you would kind of repeat a mantra to yourself. So it's not about clearing your mind, it's giving you a specific thought, but the whole time it's about just helping you, because meditation's only about training your brain to be able to focus on one particular thing and to be able to concentrate, and so people in the brains of meditators, there's certain areas of the brain that are thicker than in non-meditators, and it's because it builds up the areas that are really important, like your sort of frontal cortex. It's really important for focus, attention and concentration, and memory as well. It builds up your hippocampus, which is really important for learning and memory and emotion regulation as well. So it actually does change your brain and really help you to perform better and to have better thinking habits. So I think for anybody out there who's tried meditation and thought, it's not for me, can't do it, then I guess my ask is just, have another go. Or if there are people who have never tried it, don't be put off. It is something that's really, really simple. So if it's all right with you, we'll just do a quick one. So if you can just find somewhere where you're kind of not going to be distracted. So for anyone who's listening to the podcast, just find somewhere where for a couple of minutes you're not going to have people sort of walking in the room and that kind of thing.
Put a disclaimer in of if you don't operate heavy machinery.
Yes, not while you're driving.
Pancakes, do as Nicky says and just go somewhere quiet.
Yeah, just as long as you're not driving or you're not operating any machinery, then we're all good. But yeah, and so literally all I would encourage you to do is just sit. So sit in a chair and put your feet flat on the floor. And the reason why it's important to put your feet flat on the floor is because with meditation, it's just about helping you to feel centered and grounded. So if you're sitting with your legs crossed, you might be swaying all over the shop. We don't want that. So sit with your feet flat on the floor and a nice tall spine, and then just close your eyes, or if you don't like the idea of closing your eyes, just lower and soften your gaze. And what I'm gonna just walk you through here is a breathing exercise meditation called the 4-7-8. And the way that it works is it literally manually overrides part of your nervous system, because you've got within your nervous system, you've got your fight or flight, which is your stress response, and then you've got the other side of it, which is the rest and digest. And with this particular breathing meditation, because you are spending twice as long on your out breath, you're stimulating the rest and digest. So this is why it's that it's that thing where you're able to kind of take a hold and you program your kind of your response to stress. So this is about triggering what's called the relaxation response. So when you're ready, just close your eyes, and then I want you to breathe in, and I'll count you in. So you're going to breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, and then breathe out to a count of 8. But when you blow out, you need to blow out with some good force. And we're going to do it for we're going to do 4 cycles of that, and it's literally going to take us about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. Okay. So I want you to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One last one. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So then just return your breathing to normal and then gently open your eyes. And what you tend to find, I don't know how both you guys feel, but what you tend to find is that people say, God, I just feel so relaxed. Feel so calm.
I do, yes.
I don't need that today, I think.
You can come on every episode.
Yes, please.
Well, that you see, so that kind of thing, you know, there you go. So you've just done a breathing meditation. It's a really, really simple technique, scientifically proven to slow your heart rate down, slow your breathing rate. That just slows everything down and gives you that sense of feeling just much more calm and much more balanced. And it's not the silver bullet. It's not the case that you could just sit and do that breathing exercise every day, and then when stress comes, you know, it's not going to be a bother. It's not that. It's just one of the things that you can do. It takes a really, really short amount of time. And because you know in your mind now, there's the science that says this is what's going to work, and this is that there is a relaxation response it's going to trigger. Whenever you start to feel overwhelmed, or before you're going to, you pull up at work, and maybe your heart's racing a bit because you know you're going to have a really busy day, or you're going home and there's something that's going on at home. So whenever you start to feel a little bit stressed or start to feel a bit overwhelmed, just take a couple of minutes to do that exercise, and it'll just help to clear your mind. And when you clear your mind, you can think more logically, and then you can go and solve your problems in a better way than if you're just running around like a headless chicken and you haven't got that moment to breathe.
Oh, I feel really relaxed, actually. Sorry, I was thinking of my next question. So that's really good. So obviously we can do it at any time of the day. Is that something you should do then when you feel stress coming, or just have this as a practice?
So I would say just do it every day. So I've got, I do it every day, at least twice a day. So I do it in the morning and I do it in the evening. But whenever I can start to feel some sort of kind of emotions rise up, so I'm starting to feel a bit stressed, or I'm starting to feel a bit busy in my mind, then I would definitely go and do that. And you just find that it just brings you back into the present moment. And that's all meditation is as well. It's about training your brain to focus, but it's about making sure that you're sort of living in the present and helping yourself to be living in the now. Because, two of the major sources of stress that we have, the two chronic major sources of stress, is living in the future and kind of worrying about the future. This is going to happen. What's she going to say? What he's going to do? How's that meeting going to go? Kind of what's the issues going to be? Or rehashing events from the past and living in the past and going through old ground. And actually we spend so much of our time every day living in the future and living in the past. So what you want to do with meditation and with a breathing exercise like that is to just bring you back into now, because you want to be living in the now, and your brain's happiest when you're living in the now. So I would say practice it every day, but you can use it throughout the day. If you're about to go to a meeting and you're starting to get a bit nervous about that, or if you need to have a difficult conversation with somebody, or you're just feeling generally quite overwhelmed, that would be the first place I would turn to.
Now we talk about being in the present. What's the difference between meditation and mindfulness?
Yeah, so I get asked this all the time.
Great.
What's the difference between meditation and mindfulness? Well, it was John Kabat-Zinn who's like the big daddy of mindfulness, and he said the best meditation is actually the way that you live your life. Okay, and so he is basically the founder of mindfulness. Meditation for me is when you sort of sit down purposefully to come to the act of meditating. Yeah, so that's when you are in a room, you don't want to be distracted, and all you're doing, all you want to do, and your intention that moment is to do some meditation. Whereas mindfulness is about the way that you live your life. So, it's about, for example, first thing in the morning, do you wake up and roll over, grab your phone and start checking Facebook? And that's mindless. Yeah, because you're basically looking, or check the news, like let other external things dictate my first moments in the day. Or do you turn over to your partner, who's kind of in bed, and give them a hug and thank God that they're there, and kind of have some, special moments there to help to set you up for the rest of the day. And it's whether, you go into the shower, or you're in the shower, your body's in the shower, but your head's already writing your emails for when you get into the office, or you go for a walk on the beach and you haven't enjoyed any of your walk on the beach because you've been too busy rehashing a conversation with somebody else or worrying about something that's going to happen. So meditation for me, and the difference between mindfulness meditation is the act where you bring yourself and your intention and some time and energy to sit and focus. And mindfulness is how you live your life, and it's whether you go about all of the different things that you do in your day, the different conversations that you have with people, when the food that you're eating, the drinks that you're drinking, whatever it might be. Are you actually in the moment, or are you just doing these things and you're on autopilot? I mean, mindfulness is basically the opposite of being on autopilot.
I remember we did a mindfulness course when I was working at the NHS, and we had to spend 5 minutes eating a raisin, which was excruciating.
I've done the raisin. I didn't like that one.
Oh, I was like, oh my God, I now don't like raisins.
Yeah. But do you know actually there's obviously there's kind of mindfulness meditation as well. So there's lots and lots of different types of meditation. One of them is mindfulness meditation. And an example of that is the spend 5 minutes eating a raisin, which was not my thing either. Another one that's actually a really, really lovely exercise to do. And we've been doing it because I'm studying to be a meditation teacher at the moment. And it was one of the exercises that we did on the course. And it was called the 3x3. And so what that means is that you would basically go outside and you pick 3 things to look at, 3 things to listen to, and 3 things to touch. And so it's like 10-minute exercise, but you would go up. It probably sounds a bit weird, and I guess for people walking past where we were, it probably looked a bit weird. But actually, it was about going up to a tree and having a look at a leaf, right? Because when do you ever stop and have a look at a leaf? And I remember at some point I was kind of in this like little vegetable garden looking at the cabbage, and it was just a cabbage, but this cabbage was absolutely beautiful. It was kind of white and purple, and you would never, ever, ever spend your precious time sitting looking at a cabbage. And that's all this thing was. It was about it's one of the ways. It might sound a bit weird, but it's one of the ways and one of the things you can do that just brings you into here and now. So here and now, I'm just looking at the leaves of this cabbage. Or here and now, I'm just feeling the bark on this tree and having a look at it. And isn't it amazing?
It's definitely something that I think as a mum, my little boy kind of brings me into that. So yes, we do go looking at leaves a lot.
Yeah.
But no, now it's got purpose. Instead of saying, "Come on then, Oliver, let's go. We need to go and get an ice cream." But yes, it's that kind of childlike stopping, looking, and being in the moment.
Yeah.
I think we can learn a lot from children.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they do it naturally, but then if you look at how happy they are naturally compared to us, when we feel like we've got the weight of the world on our shoulders, because in our head we're at work, or in our head we're in these problems, or creating problems that actually might never come to fruition. And so we have full minds, whereas the child doesn't have problems. The child doesn't got issues. He's just enjoying being in the moment. So we need to be a bit more childlike in that regard. And I've started now. You couldn't walk down. I live in Tynemouth, and it's just the most beautiful place to live. And you'd be walking down the street, and there's rose bushes coming out of people's gardens. And instead of just ignoring it and walking past, I literally will stop with my little one as well. Stop and have a look at the rose, but actually just take a minute to appreciate it and talk about it, think about it, smell it, and it's just all part of kind of bringing you back into this is where I am right now.
No, that's great.
Who would you suggest then Zendays is for? Do you see, is there a tendency for more women to have stress? Do you have men that you deal with? Could children benefit from this? What would you suggest?
Oh, interesting. So Zendays, I in particular have kept it very kind of male-female balanced, because I see that there's loads of amazing programs out there, kind of coaching programs and that kind of thing, that are specifically for women. And I've been on a couple of those, and they are incredible. But I really did feel quite sorry for all the men out there, because actually I've got some really, really close male friends as well, and I know that men struggle maybe even more so than women, because women tend to be very good at talking about these things. Men tend to be not good at talking about these things. And I interviewed a friend of mine who I grew up with on Zendays, actually, and he said he was a really, really successful dentist, very wealthy, huge house, drove a Porsche, beautiful wife, lovely kids. And also on the outside, he looked like, this guy would not have any problems. Everything would be fine. But in reality, inside, he was really, really struggling with mental health issues. And so he would tell you, he feels as though he's kind of wasted about 10 years worth of his life, and he's only 42. And he's been much better for the last couple of years, which is amazing. And together we do a lot of work, and because we're constantly trying to say we need to help other men to realise that it's actually better to have a voice. The male suicide rates are horrific. I think it's something like 80 people a week at least who are committing suicide, men who are committing suicide. And I can only imagine, I know how difficult it was for me to speak out about stuff like this, but actually to be a man where you're expected to be strong, dependable, capable, have everything sorted, and being the man of the house and all this kind of thing, to dare say that you feel like you're overwhelmed, or you feel like you're really stressed, or whatever that might be. I can well imagine, how difficult that must be for men. So for Zendays, in terms of who's it for, it's absolutely, we've got loads of men on there. I would say it's probably a bit of a 50-50 split. And in terms of children as well, there's some stuff. I tend to drop a couple of F-bombs on Zendays, so it might not be for the very young for the very young ears. But there's definitely stuff that can be learnt, that can be taken, I suppose, from the content that we've got on Zendays by younger people. And I'm actually starting to do some work with a friend of mine who does meditation and mindfulness for children, and see what we can do that kind of comes up with something as a bit of a collaboration. Yes, I think Zendays is for anybody who wants a bit of inspiration on how to deal with their stress, how to create happiness, how to combat negative thinking habits, because it is just negative thinking habits. And if you think about how much fuss we all make about going to the gym so you can get toned and get strong muscles and all the rest of it, well, in the same way that you need to take your body to the gym if you want to be fit and strong, you have to figure out a way of taking your mind to the gym. And so many people don't. And so, if you don't ever go to the gym, or you don't go walking or whatever, you're going to end up being a bit of a fat slob. Yeah. And actually, if you don't do anything that takes your mind to the gym, your mind's going to be the equivalent of a fat slob, and it's just not going to work. It's not going to perform for you in the way that you want it to. So whether it's, obviously my thing that I've found is meditation. That's what really works for me, but there's lots of other things people can do. So if you want to be creative, or you are creative, be creative. If you're a runner, run. If you're a gardener, go out and kind of go and make some magic in the garden. Whatever the thing is that you love to do, that you can feel is going to just take some of the pressure off you and be a bit of an outlet for any stress that builds up, then please just find your thing and go and do that.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Nicky, is there anything else you want to say to our audience before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. Other than, like I said at the start, make sure that you are doing something every day that helps yourself. It really doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, But find the thing that helps you deal with the stress, so it doesn't just become bigger and bigger and bigger over time, to the point where you feel like you're overwhelmed by it. If you're at the point now where you feel like you're overwhelmed, then you need to just take yourself, sort of step back a bit and have a look at, what is your lifestyle like? What are the things that you're doing that are making the situation worse for yourself? So you're drinking too much, eating too much. Have you got some negative thinking, habits and patterns? What are those things that you're doing that's making things worse for yourself, and what could you do to switch the dial and be able to start to be much more positive in how you look after yourself and how you look after your mind? Because I honestly think we all just need to kind of take some responsibility for this during the periods where things aren't very, very difficult, so that you're ready and that you've built your resilience for when the tough winds come.
It's very powerful. Thank you for that, Nicky. So if that has really got you inspired to want to do something, how can someone go about following you or doing more?
So I'm. You can find me on Zendays. Like I say, it's a free Facebook community. And the other things that I'm going to start looking to do quite soon, actually, are I'm going to be putting together some retreats. I'm going to be doing meditation courses as well. So I'm currently designing what would be a 4 or 5 week meditation course, a weekly thing. And that'll be down in the coast. So somewhere in or around Tynemouth, Whitley Bay, Cullercoats type of area. And with a view, as well to running retreats and sharing more kind of tools and tips for people to think about the type of life that they want and the type of person that they really want to be, and giving them practical strategies and tools and tips to be able to, kind of go off in that direction.
Sounds wonderful. Well, I certainly feel more zen. I don't know about you, Michelle.
Oh, totally.
So we'll have to get you back on, Nicky, and see how you're progressing with all these courses.
Love to. Thank you.
So thanks for coming in. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode, when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.